I'm really excited to talk about Globus because it is so friendly just out of the box with what we have. And I think for those of you that have larger groups that want to do more non-scary management of the storage, Globus gives you a way to give access to the storage account or the Kopah account without also giving the keys, which can be, a point of security risk with your group. So there are definitely ways that we can give everyone in your group a set of keys so that they can use the programmatic functions of S3, but Globus is a way that you can just kind of, through the web interface, give folks access to this quota where they can be able to transfer to and from their local computer. It's also easy to go to and from Hayek's clone cluster to the to the S3 storage by Globus. So I just wanted to point out that I'm not going to be doing a presentation. This is more of a hands-on demo, so I don't have a presentation file for this, but the documentation is here on our Hayek documentation website, hayek.uw.edu, under this documentation button. And then if you go to storage and click on Kopah, we have our basic Kopah information here. And then we have our GUI usage, so our graphical user interface tools are in this menu. I'll share all of this in the follow-up email. So for all of you, your Globus account or your Kopah account has been mapped to Globus, so you should be able to access it there. The first thing to do is to go to globus.org and to click on login. And I've already logged in, so mine's already fast. But just while you're all getting to this stage, I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit more about Globus. Globus is this subscription service that the university has, and that the UWIT Research Computing is the owner of one of the subscriptions. And so we're making this service available to really help you accelerate your use of Kopah and accelerate your use of Hayek. But there are some features available to really, if you're using Hayek and Kopah, but you also have someone at a different university and you need to get data from them, you can also set up an endpoint for them to transfer data over to you. So it's really great for this kind of international sharing. But what I'm going to be talking about today is just kind of the basic usage of Globus. One of my favorite things about Globus, though, is that you can set up your transfers to happen unsupervised. So you can just say, transfer this to this, and if it's a super big file, this just happens and you don't have to leave your connection open. It's just going without your monitoring that is happening. It also has fault tolerance. So if there is something that happens without your knowledge that, it shuts off for a moment, there's a little blip in the networking between all of these moving parts, then it will pick up where it left off with your data transfer. And like I said, it does also give us some additional access controls with our Kopah. All right, so if you're in Globus and you've already logged in, then you'll see this file manager is here. And so I can start by looking for, we'll find two at first. So we'll go ahead and search for UW Hayek clone. And this is our clone server and storage that Nam was talking about, our G-Scratch storage. So if we open this up, it actually takes me, my landing page is my home directory on clone. So these are the files in my home directory. I too have a Kopah keys file. So that's that. If we want to go to Kopah, we can also search for UW Hayek Kopah, and that is where this one is. And so I'm in a shared Hayek team directory where we have some archives from our old cluster, just in case anyone wants them. We do keep them for a safe amount of time, just so we don't have any upset customers. But one thing I'll say is that I always I've bookmarked my two main Globus resources, which are clone and Kopah. And I think that's kind of like the fastest way to do things here. Another thing that you can do is you can turn your personal device into a Globus endpoint as well. And I'm not going to be demonstrating that today, but it is possible for you to do that. And these instructions go more into depth with that. And Globus has their own like video tutorial to walk you through those steps. So since Hayak Clone and Hayak Kopah are already set up as endpoints, I'll be demonstrating with that today. But I do want to tell you that you can also set up your personal computer as an endpoint and handle transfers to Kopah or to Hayak Clone. So I'm going to start off by just showing you my favorite way to use Globus to set up some transfers. So I've just opened up Hayak Clone, and these are the files in my home directory. I can click on this like two-paned view, and now I can see I have this same interface just over here on the right as well. And now this is where I can click on Hayak Kopah, and now I have both of those file sets visible on the same page. And if I want to, I can, either side, I can just select something. I'll just pick this. I can select more than one thing. I can select a whole directory if I want to, but I'm just going to pick this test Jupyter notebook that I have, and I can just say start. And now my transfer has been submitted, and I can go and look at these details. So this is where you would come and monitor the event that you have scheduled and the transfers that you have going on. It also sends me an email when this is complete, so that's really nice. I can pause this, I can edit the label, anything that I want. Let's see, can I easily go back? Yes. Another thing that you can do is you can use these transfer options. So you can set this up as a sync. Many different, I like the scheduled start. So let's say you know that you want to make sure that something else happens before this happens, or you want to say, I want to make sure to back up everything that I have in this directory on this date. Then you can do that. You can also repeat it. So you can say, I want to back up everything in my clone home directory every day at 5 p.m. And it'll do that. So this is cool. This has never been available before. And you don't have to do any scripting to allow for that. So that's my favorite way to use Kopah and Globus, just for transferring stuff back and forth. Yes, Al.
Sorry, so what happened to buckets and all this?
Oh, so they just look like, so the buckets over here just look like these directories. So I do have underscores in my bucket names. I don't know, Bhavik. I was able to make it happen. But yeah, these are just buckets. And inside of these, they have a zipped up tar file. So yeah, all of these buckets just happen to have the underscores here. And they each only have one. So that's just how I have this set up. This is our like backup of the Mox cluster. So
yeah, if you did that desktop sync you mentioned earlier, is that the method that you might recommend to move data into Kopah, for instance?
yes, that's what I haven't played with it myself, but that's what I would do if I was trying to use Kopah as the like secondary backup of my thing.
Have you worked with anyone who's tried to set up Kopah or Globus on another server in a department on campus? Like, is the Kopah license only for, or the Globus license only for this set of services, or does it apply across the university? Because I have to do a lot of file transfers between Hayak and Kopah and a department server, and I can set up a personal endpoint if it was my own laptop, or for a department server that I don't have administrator access on. I'm just wondering if you've worked with anybody that's had that problem.
So Michael just walked in. Sorry to pick on you, Michael.
I don't have this problem.
Yeah.
Michael, can you say how hard or easy it was to set up an endpoint for Globus to transfer between Kopah and a different server?
Yeah, and I can get sort of a characterization. It does require root. It requires the ability to bind Tortful for free and a server configuration. it took me about 5 hours of work to get a working Globus server, which was mostly that I walked in with 0 Globus experience and a bunch of Unix experience. And I had a couple of weird bugs along the way, like Neko's name was too long for Globus's poor little brain. It could only accept a 64 character host name. There is if you have a Linux device or a Windows or a Mac, there's Globus. There's like a personal Globus, but it relies on you having a GUI because it requires TCL/TK to render its GUI, which it uses for basically everything. And it also requires that you have essentially admin access on your own thing. I don't think it requires you to open port 443. I believe it does something different, but I haven't set it up. But that's sort of the fastest route.
So
Yeah, I don't have a great answer for like if you don't have root and it's a departmental server and you don't if you don't even have super user and it's departmental server and you want to Globus stack, like I don't really know what you do. It doesn't appear to be support.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful because our administrator, we brought it up with them and they're like, well, we're concerned about security. We don't really have the time to investigate this when we're by now. You're knowing it took you 5 hours. Being a knowledgeable Unix version is also very good.
So if you did with your department IT department, with your department IT, if they were willing to like support you setting that up since they have super user privileges and you were wanting that specifically to transfer things from your directories that you own on that server to Kopah, we would be able to add them to the subscription so that they could do that. But our support in walking them through how to do those things would be a bit limited. Yeah. Globus is also new to us, so we haven't had to walk very many people through this process. I think we only have 2 subscription users right now, besides ourselves. So it might be that you need the full path. So gscratch is actually a symbolic link on Hayak. So the full path to gscratch is like mmfs1 gscratch and then the directory there. So sometimes these like other interfaces don't like using the symbolic links in paths. That might be why, but you got it now?
Working at the end.
Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead.
just the user, in terms of users, so you have a group Kopah setup, and you have a bunch of users that no longer require keys. How are they getting access to your Kopah setup through Globus?
Yes. Let me demonstrate this. Okay. So in Globus, we have this groups panel, this groups tool right here. So I have set up a fictional group called Finch Lab, which is my lab. And so I can just set up this group and then I'm able to invite others to be in my group or send them the shareable link where they can join my group. And I can see the members here and I can also designate members who have different roles. So you see I have David Cox, my colleague here. I could make him into be administrator of this group. So then he would be able to determine the permissions of other group members and such like that. So you don't just have to have one person that is maintaining all of this. So let's say I only have 2 people in my group right now, so I'm just going to share with David in this scenario, but I'll show you how that works. So if on Hayak Clone, we don't have sharing set up right now. So you can only share from Kopah. And that's just because we're still determining the security and stuff behind this. So let's say I wanted to share this, I think I already did that one in a previous demonstration. So I'll do this one. Sorry. I really just need to highlight it. And then I can use my little, so this is a tool for all of the tools you can do with Globus. So I want to choose share. And the first thing you need to do is make this into a guest collection. So I'm going to add new guest collection. If I wanted to just add it to a collection that I already had available, then you could do that as well. But if I'll just make a new guest collection here with this directory name, I can, there's many more things that you can do. You can send it to people. You can fill out as much of this as you want to. Display name. So now I've made that guest collection. It's now called CEI files. And this is where I can add permissions and share with. So I can share this with a user in particular by email. I could share this with a group, so that's where I can select my Finch Lab group. And I can give them read access only or read and write access as well. And then I just put add permissions. If I want to add more permissions, I can do that, or I can say done. So I could add, I could also make this public, or I could share this with all Globus users so that anyone on Globus could, I don't know why you would do that, but you could do it. And so that's how you can start to manage the access to these different buckets that you have. And so my recommendation and how I've set up one labs group with this is that they have all of their project, like say they have one project on topic A. So they have a project A bucket. So they put all of their stuff in there. And then they use Globus, they're the administrator, they've made up this Finch Lab or this lab group, and then they add all the members for Project A, and then they just share read and write privileges with Project A for all of the folks in that group. And let's say they have another group that's like the public that they want to be able to have access to some of their data sets, for example. So then they have their data sets directory, and they have another group, which is all the people that they specifically invite to be these public users with their group. So then they make those folks only have read privileges. So then they can like go here and download things, but they can't like change anything about it or add any users or anything like that. We also have one group, the Sahelish Sea Modeling Center, that they actually like regularly update their data sets, and they use Kopah and Globus to share them with people. So they can like quickly like turn off the links that they have made available and like just change which of their data sets is being shared.
Well, use so I can picture this. When you're setting the permissions through Globus, how is that affecting the bucket permissions that you mentioned earlier about always like the bucket being private? You set it to private. Or is it by default private? Was the other question I wanted to know.
I'm not sure exactly, but I think to access the bucket in the other way, they have to have the keys.
Got it.
Yep. So that's like the privacy aspect.
Okay.
Unless they've made like a link to it, a link out to be public.
Got it.
We're all still very new to Globus. It's only been a few months with this tool, so we haven't tested out everything, and we really think hopefully it's increasing the usability of Kopah. So we would love to hear all of your feedback about how this is working. But I do think for groups that, for example, we have a conversation with a group on campus that they need to do a lot of public sharing, but they don't need to do anything really programmatic with this. So they don't necessarily want a ton of their users to have keys, which is another like security issue, right? So they're really just going to use Globus for everything that they need to do. So I think that we have a lot of options for how you might want to set up your Kopah storage that we can talk about when all of you become enrolled.